Okay, thanks everybody for logging in. Oops, we're a little ahead of myself here. 1 second. So here we go. All right, today we're on chapter 3, and we're actually going to talk about the first steps of starting a business and specifically how do you recognize opportunities and how do you start evaluating them. So developing startup ideas, you have to recognize opportunities. Opportunity recognition is when you identify potential new products or services that may lead to promising businesses. Entrepreneurs always kind of have to be alert. They always have to be on the lookout. It's like your radars are always up. You're always looking for something. For something, not just something random, but something you're looking for is really solving a problem. When you solve a customer's problem, only then will they be willing to give you their money. If it's not solving a problem or not adding any value, they're not going to part from their money easily, right? So startups are new business ventures that are starting from scratch. So it's not when you buy an existing business, but you actually start something from scratch. Let me just see, somebody said something, okay, never mind yet. All right, so let's look at type of startup ideas. First one is new market ideas. It's a startup idea created around providing customers with an existing product or services not available in their market. So this is something where you don't necessarily have to invent something new that has never done before, right? This could be something as simple as, and I always say this, I go to Campbell a lot, downtown Campbell. I love that little downtown area. But you know, one of the things that's missing in downtown Campbell, at least on the main strip, is maybe some more, maybe a Thai restaurant. Thai food is very popular, and a lot of people like Thai food. I would love to have a Thai restaurant there. There are probably 5 Italian restaurants. There's a sushi place. There are a couple of Mexican places, but no Thai place. So that would be a new market idea, right? Or you're going to an area, a neighborhood that has a good market for people that like to get their hair done, but there's no hair salon in the area. So that would be a new market idea, and startup centered in around something that already is being done, but it's not available in that market, right? Then there's a new technology idea. That's a startup involving new or relatively new technology centered around providing customers with new products or services. So, and this has to do a little more with innovation, right? With the some of the new recent things that have been added to, available for consumers, whether free or not, the use of AI tools. There's a free use of AI tools. There are paid services and things like that, right? So that would be a new technology idea. Right? AI has actually been around for a while, but not really available to consumers. It's now becoming available to consumers, right? Pivot is when you refocus to create a startup if the initial concept turns out to be flawed. So let's say you started a business and it didn't really work that well. So now you pivot, you change it. Maybe you started an exercise studio, and all you offered was ballet classes. And you realize there really isn't a big market for just that. Now you can pivot and maybe add other things, add yoga, add CrossFit, or some other things, right? Where you kind of change focus a little bit, or you can also broaden focus, right? And other types of startups ideas are new benefit ideas. A startup idea centered around providing customers with a new or improved product or service, or a better way to performing old functions. A good example of new benefit ideas is whenever you have a new release of something, whether it's a hardware or software. When Apple releases a new iPhone, it always has some improvements. It has a better camera a lot of times. Sometimes it has new features. Although it has so many features, I probably don't even use half of them. But you get the point, right? You're improving your already existing product, or coming up with an idea how to improve products that already exist. So where do you get ideas? Common sources of startup ideas. So a lot of people have startup ideas because of prior work experience. This is why a lot of people, most people do not start a business right out of college. They go work for somebody else first and get some industry experience, get exposed to certain industries and certain technologies and things like that. And that gives them, the more experiences you have, the more ideas you can generate, right? And the more you understand complexities of markets and of products and services and things like that, right? Having said that, there have been a lot of success stories of people that did start a business right out of college. It is possible, but a lot of startup ideas come from people's prior work experience. You work at a company and you realize, hey, I can do this myself. I have money saved. I'm going to get a loan and use my saved money, and I'm going to start doing this on my own, right? And I'm going to do it better than my employer has. Other sources are personal interest or hobby. If you have a hobby that you are passionate about, and we talked about different types of entrepreneur, and one of the entrepreneurs we talked about is lifestyle entrepreneur, where you actually do something you love. Let's say you love music. You could start a business. You could start a music school, right? You want to be involved with music. You're passionate about it. You want to teach other people about music. Or maybe you like snowboarding. You can start a company that does snowboarding trips to certain areas, right? So personal interests and hobbies. Sometimes it's really by chance, right? A lot of it is suggestions. People talk, and you know what? You should always talk to people, and don't be afraid of other people stealing your ideas unless it's something you really have already kind of are planning to do, right? Then you have to be careful who you talk to about it. But in general, the more you talk to people, the more information you share, the more other people will share information with you as well. It's kind of like brainstorming, right? Education and courses and family business. So you all are taking this class, and you know, maybe a lot of you have already kind of toyed with the idea of starting a business, but the more we get, the deeper we get into the topics of starting a business, the more you might open your mind and say, hey, this sounds like something that could work, right? And then family business. A lot of people grow up with parents who have a business. Friends and relatives, and for the 4% is any other random source, right? So what you have to do when you are looking for ideas, you have to identify pain points that open doors to new possibilities. So a pain point is you have to recognize potential customers' pains. What is it that they're frustrated with? What would make their life easier, right? A commitment to creative thinking can generate many ideas for new businesses and also help keep existing businesses fresh and moving. So if you already have a business, you have to know your customers, and you have to know what your customers are frustrated with, so you can improve that. If you don't have a business, then you just have to overall think about what's pain, and how can you do that? Think of yourself. What is it right now, or not at this very moment, but in general, next time you think, when you're frustrated with something isn't working properly, or you can't get this something going because something is missing, think about, hey, wait a minute, maybe there's a solution for that. Let me think about a solution that could address this problem, right? Ask what's missing, then build a product around that. Take a cue from existing products and services. Don't ignore what's around. You know, a lot of people have startup ideas and it's already been done. That doesn't mean you can't also do it, right? But look around and see what's going on. Borrowing ideas from existing products and services, or even other industries, right? Combining two businesses to create a market opening. Let me think of an example of combining two businesses. Okay, so for example, the thing I talked about in the beginning, when you create a, exercise class studio, and you're only offering ballet classes, and then maybe you have a friend who likes to teach something else, yoga. Now you combine the two and create something where you have where you can offer more options to your customers. You can adapt a product or service to meet customer needs in a different way, right? So maybe there's a product out there, but it's not that great. Maybe the way it's offered is not very convenient to customers. You can find a different way to offer it to the customers to acquire the product, right? Or creatively expanding the market for a product or service by, tapping into other markets, other areas, other populations. Let's say you are having products, something like clothes. No matter how old you are, everybody wears clothes, right? So you can start a business and maybe come up with some designs that address a certain age group, right? And then you could expand that and later on add other age groups and maybe vary your products a little bit, right? So that way you can expand the market and go into other areas. Finding new ways to deliver products and services. Customers want convenience. We don't want to wait for our products. Even some of us are impatient with Amazon Prime 2 days. We want it in 1 day, and they even have that option, right? We want it hassle-free. We don't want to spend a lot of time acquiring the product or even finding the product, right? And we are very impatient. We want customers nowadays want instant gratification. We want it now, right? So we want the products in our hands as simply and as easily and as soon as possible. You can streamline customers' activities, cash in on the sharing economy, offer products through a subscription service, meet common customers through mobile business apps and things like that, cut out intermediaries and sell directly to the consumer. Now you have to go, the last one, you have to be a little careful because intermediaries are, in the old days, they used to be called middlemen or middle women, right? But that's, where you have a product and then it goes through somebody else's hands before it gets to the customer. And the intermediary also gets a cut, right? So why would you do that? You do that because you want to reach more people. Let's say you're going through a wholesaler. The wholesaler now has a huge amount of retailers that they can sell the product to. If you wanted to sell it directly to the customer, you cannot reach as many as the wholesaler can, right? You can only reach so many customers. You don't have that network. So, cutting out the intermediary is an option because you would increase your profit margin for each product, but you might not be able to reach a big market. Imagine you have one store. Imagine you sell a product that people typically don't buy online. They want to come and try it on or whatever. And you can only have one store, but if you go through a wholesaler who uses many retail companies, now it's going to be in all the different stores that you couldn't possibly have reached yourself, right? So anyway, tap into the potential of emerging possibilities, anticipate new developments and address them with untried alternatives. So be a little adventurous, right? Recognize a popular trend and ride the wave. What are the trends around you? And they differ, trends around my age group is different than trends around your age group, right? But, what are people looking for? What is popular? What's the in thing to do right now, right? Sometimes offering a green product or service, an environmentally product is a great alternative, right? We talked about social entrepreneurship in the beginning. First lecture, I think, right? So tap into that if there's something that's really popular. By the way, food, right? Health food. We're hearing more and more how important food is, and we're having a health crisis in this country. So you could create something that addresses healthy eating, right? Drinking alcohol is being frowned upon more nowadays because there's more and more research suggesting how damaging it is for our health. And all of a sudden, there are all these fancy mocktails everywhere, right? So ride the trend, right? Keep an eye on new technologies. What about AI? Now, don't use it for this class, as you know, but businesses use AI. When you enter the workforce, and some of you are already working part-time and things like that, but when you enter your job after college, I guarantee you most of you are going to be using AI on your jobs, right? Can be very productive, but we have to be careful how we use it, right? We can't just rely on it and not let AI do everything for us, right? But you know, it's got to be part. Companies are making it part of their business now. Outside in analysis. So entrepreneurs look for needs in the marketplace and then determine how to use their own capabilities to pursue these opportunities. So outside in is you're looking at the outside, and that's kind of also referred to as your external environment. What's going on outside you and outside your life and outside your company, right? There's a general environment, industry environment, and competitive environment. General environment is the environment that looks at factors that influence most businesses in society. So it's everything really that influence a business, right? The community, the legal environment and all that, social environment and all that stuff, right? But then you have industry environment. So the environment that includes factors that directly impact a firm and all of its competitors. So, and this is based on what industry you operate in. If you are operating in the food industry, and a new law comes out about you are not allowed to use this type of ingredient anymore, that's going to affect you directly, right? If you're in the let's see, let's have another example of an industry. Supplements. Supplements are pretty much unregulated in this country, right? But we could see in the future some more regulation of supplements. That is going to impact how you're going to sell your products. If you're selling produce at the farmer's market, I remember when the organic trend became really, really popular and people were looking for organic food. In the very beginning, the word organic was not regulated. Everybody said organic, but it wasn't truly organic. Now, the produce providers at the farmer's market, or for that matter, anywhere, cannot say they're organic unless they are USDA certified organic, right? So that impacts the industry. You have to know what's going on in that. And again, these are outside influences that you don't have control over, but you have to be aware of and you have to react to them, right? And then there's a competitive environment that focuses on the strength, position, and likely moves of competitors and counterparts in an industry. So you have to keep an eye out what your competition is doing. If there are two sandwich shops with a close vicinity from each other, you better know why everybody's going to that other shop all of a sudden and not to you. Maybe they're having a special. Maybe they have a new product that they're selling. Maybe they're giving a free soft drink, whatever it is, but you have to know what the competition is doing. So these three factors are outside in analysis, right? So the general environment, I'm sorry, yeah, I have some more slides about this. You know, you have the political and legal environment, social-cultural environment. What is society and culture like? And that's changing. It's you know, there are always a lot of changes, social-cultural changes. Sustainability, demographics, you know, you have aging populations, you have new, you know, populations that get older, you have others that are retiring, right? And they all have a certain type of buying power and they have all different needs that need to be met, right? The economy, the global environment, and the technological environment. Let's look at major factors offsetting industry attractiveness. So how attractive is an industry? You know, is the food industry attractive? Is the tech industry attractive? Should I do another app on the phone? There's so many thousands of apps. Is it attractive, or will it be profitable to create another app, right? There are different things you have to look at about. You have to look at the threat of new competition, right? Are there a lot of people entering? What is a competition made up of? Is it made up of a few really large companies that have a lot of power over the industry? Or are there a lot of smaller companies, right? Threat of substitute products or services. So substitute products or services are similar to competitors. Now, if you have a sandwich shop on one side on one end of the street, and you have a sandwich shop on the other end of that same street, that's direct competition. A substitute product would be not a sandwich shop, but a Chinese restaurant. I can go have Chinese food instead of a sandwich. So that's a substitute product. It's not exactly the same, but it still fulfills my need to satisfy my hunger, right? So you have to look at substitute products too. The intensity of rivalry among existing companies, you know, we see that in commercials sometimes. Sometimes it can be quite nasty how companies are competing with each other, right? Do you want to be part of that? Bargaining power of suppliers. Suppliers are the companies that a business buys from. So can they just randomly change the price on you because they're the only ones offering it and you're just going to have to pay up, right? Or are there a lot of suppliers? Do you have a lot of alternatives? And then bargaining power of your buyers as well, right? Integrating internal and external analysis. So a solid foundation of competitive advantage requires a reasonable match between a business's strengths and weaknesses and the opportunities and threats in its relevant environment. It's called a SWOT analysis. I'm not sure if you have ever heard about it, but a lot of you will, if you're going to study business, you're going to take a class called Introduction to Business, and it's a big part of what you're going to learn there. It's your SWOT stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So right now we talked about the external environment, right? The economy, politics, social culture environment, your competition, and all that stuff that you don't have influence over. That's the external environment. Those are opportunities and threats. The internal environment is really more about yourself or your company. What are your strengths and weaknesses? And how do you use your strengths and weaknesses to capitalize on the opportunities and to deal with the threats that come from the outside that you don't control, right? So here's an example of SWOT factors. So inside the company, again, the strengths and weaknesses, I'm not going to read all of them individually, but really good ones are financial strength is a big advantage for a company. Positive reputation in the marketplace, huge, right? Because we do live in a competitive environment, and because consumers do have choices, the better your reputation, the more likely they're going to buy from you. Proprietary technology that only you can use because you have a patent, right? Pharmaceutical companies have that when they come up with a new drug. Right now, but the big thing about weight loss is Ozempic. They have a patent on it. Once that patent expires, other companies can offer that as well, right? But that's a huge strength. Some weaknesses: poorly planned strategy, no management skills, limited innovation, maybe not enough facilities. So these are all things you can use your strength, capitalize on them, and you can work on improving your weaknesses. You should do both. You shouldn't just focus on your weaknesses. Some weaknesses maybe you're never going to improve. Maybe they're not as important, but others are. So, and then outside the company, again, the opportunities and threats, the things you don't have control over. Opportunities are untapped market potential. There's an area where, a market that hasn't been addressed yet. Overseas expansion, emerging technologies, government deregulations, and so forth, right? And threats, of course, new competition is always a threat. Slow market growth, sales shifting to substitute products. People maybe don't like sandwiches anymore. Maybe it's too boring and they want something different. Maybe fusion food is going to be taking over the next thing, right? So anyway, that's a SWOT analysis, and it will come up in future chapters and throughout the book about a company's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. You can do that about yourself without keeping a startup business in mind. What are your strengths and weaknesses? You already know that, right? Just as if you get bored or you're waiting somewhere for the bus or something, get on your phone and jot down your strengths and weaknesses, right? And anyway, I'll go on here. Integrating internal and external analyses. A SWOT analysis provides a snapshot view of the current conditions, of the outside conditions and of the inside conditions, right? And they identify potential business opportunities that match the entrepreneur and their planned venture. Now, there could be opportunities out there, but they're not within reach for you because you don't have that strength, right? But you have to know that. You have to do the SWOT analysis before you know that, because then you can identify those opportunities that you can actually go after, right? An entrepreneur also needs to consider whether the targeted opportunity will lead to future opportunities or competitive responses by potential rivals. If it is a good opportunity, you can pretty much count on it that you will be having competition in the future. But if you enter the market first, sometimes it's called the first mover advantage, it's called, right? You're the first one that did it. That's a huge advantage, right? But if it's a good opportunity, you can bet all your money on it that you will eventually have competition. There's a sweet spot, right? Again, SWOT analysis or inside out. This is about now your personal strength and weaknesses, your experiences, your interest, passion, your skills, and unique capabilities have to match what's out there. They have to match the industry, the general environment, competitive environment. And the third one really is the market, right? The buyers, right? They buyers as a given, they have to be buyers for your products. Strategy is really important, that you have a strategy. You don't just rent a place and start making sandwiches or selling them. You have to have a strategy, a plan of action followed to create a competitive advantage and help an organization to achieve superior performance. Companies build their strategies around an emphasis on either low cost or differentiation as they consider how to position themselves in the marketplace, right, between the competitors. So low cost means you're going to have lower prices. So differentiating yourself, meaning you have to be different. If you're identical to the competition, why would somebody change who they buy from if you're not offering anything different? So one of the differences you could offer is low cost. You could do the same thing, but charge less, right? Or you could make your product different. You know, again, what could a sandwich shop possibly do different? They could offer different options. They could use a special kind of bread, or they could use gluten-free bread, or they could use unusual ingredients where they kind of fuse two cuisines with each other, which sometimes can really take off. But you know, doing something different. If you're not going to have lower prices, you better have something different about your product or service. Okay, so I talked cost-based strategy is a plan of action that requires a firm to hold down its costs. So you're trying to create your product with as little cost as possible, so you can have bigger profits, right? The downside of it is the challenge of developing customer loyalty and generating long-term success, because some customers always are searching for the best deal, right? And also one of the risks or one of the pitfalls that could happen is if you do a cost-based strategy is your quality could suffer, because sometimes companies cut their costs so much that they now are providing lower quality products or services, which could risk them losing their customers, right? And then again, differentiation based, I explained that already, providing unique attributes that are valued by the customers. It can't be something random that doesn't matter. You can't just say, I'm going to use purple napkins and that's going to be my differentiation. It doesn't matter to the customer what color your napkins are, right? When you sell sandwiches. But it has to be important to the customer, important enough that they will buy from you. Focus strategy is a plan of action that isolates an enterprise from competitors and other market forces by targeting a restricted market segment. And I think I may have used an example or two before in the first or second lecture, but instead of creating a product that everybody would want to buy, you focus on a product that very few people want to buy. It could be a product for shoes, and you make unusual shoe sizes that a regular shoe manufacturer will not do, because they're just going to sell to the masses. When you do focus strategy, you sell to a smaller group of people. But it's also sometimes you become so specialized and you become an expert in that small market that it's going to be harder or not attractive for larger companies to enter that market because that market is not big enough to start with for larger companies, right? So cost-based and differentiation strategies can also be used while you're using focusing or market niche strategy, right? Focus strategy section and implementation. So a firm's overall strategy is formulated as its leaders decide how the firm will relate to its own environment, especially to customers and competitors. So you restrict the target market to a single subset of customer. I'm only going to make shoes that are women's size 3 to 5, let's say, right? Anybody else, I'm not making shoes for, sorry. By emphasizing on a single product or service, you could do that. I'm only making flip-flops. I'm not making, oh, you know the brand Rainbow flip-flops? Does anybody know? They were popular when my kids were your age. Rainbow, they're like, they're leather flip-flops, and the things that go around, they're leather, and they're like thin braided leather. But I think they only made flip-flops. I might be wrong, or maybe that's how they started. But that's all they made. They didn't make boots. They didn't make shoes. They didn't make anything else. It was only flip-flops. They may have added something later, but you can do that. I'm only making this product. Or by limiting the market to a single geographic area. You actually automatically do that when you open a place like a restaurant or a hair salon, right? Nobody from another state is going to come to, unless you're a Michelin star restaurant or something like that, right? Yeah. By concentrating on superiority of the product and service, making it exceptionally good, in which case you can charge more, right? Drawbacks of focus strategies. The strategy is actually limited, it's supposed to say, right? Target segment becomes unattractive or demand dwindles. The segment loses its uniqueness. The new firms subsegment the industry, so there are new firms can still come in, right? The paradox of attraction concept is the self-contradictory idea that an attractive market opportunity is likely to draw multiple competitors, thereby diminishing its attractiveness. So, like I said, if it's a good opportunity, there are going to be competitors. You want that to be in the future, because if you're not going to have competitors, that means it really wasn't a good idea to start with. So that's the paradox about that. Just a few more slides. Screening the new business ideas. There are lots of ideas, but a lot of them are not really, you can't really capitalize on them, or people won't be spending money on it, whatever. But you have to look at the strength of the idea. Does it create value, the product you have, for the end user? Who will use it? You have to offer products and services that customer favor and find easy to use. Target market and customers. You really, really have to know who your most likely customer is. Focus on a sizable market that is easy to identify. Maybe a market that's growing and not shrinking. You don't necessarily want to develop a product for a market that is becoming smaller and smaller, but a market that is bigger. And that's easy to reach too. We'll talk more about target markets in another lecture, but it's, about the characteristics of a certain group of people that have things in common. Like all of you in this class have something in common: your age, your education, your most likely socioeconomic status, your overall diversity throughout and everything, right? So you are a target market of specific products, right? I'm a different target market. I have my age group and my people and my colleagues and stuff like that, right? So that's what a target market is. And you have to know who your target market is, right? Industry and competitive advantage, we kind of talked about that already. Capability of founders that are starting the business. Do they have experience? Do they have the skills? What about networks? Passion. Having a passion really helps. Capital requirements and venture performances. You got to have some money to start a business. You got to start somewhere. There are, a lot of creative things you can do. You can do something called bootstrapping, where you really, really just really keep everything really tight at the beginning, right? Yes, it can be very little you have to start with, but you need something, right? Is your startup feasible? You'll do a feasibility analysis. And the textbook explains that more. So how likely is your venture to succeed, right? And then there are fatal flaws, a circumstance or develop that alone could render a new business unsuccessful. And I think our first chapter had that, where we had a slide about why businesses fail. Those are the fatal flaws, right? Market potential, market versus an industry. A market are the buyers, your customers. In industry are the providers, all the companies that are offering something in common. The food industry, the car industry, that's the industry. The buyers are us, we are buying that, right? So you have to look at both when you do a feasibility analysis. Industry attractiveness, how attractive is the industry? Is it growing? Is it shrinking, right? How is it made up? Is it just a bunch of a few large players? Like, for example, the industries like cell phone providers, like T-Mobile and Verizon and stuff. They're just a few big players, right? And then maybe a handful of small players that aren't really that big, right? But is it like that, or is it more open to accepting new, smaller players, right? New venture leadership, entrepreneurs are likely to be successful in startup situations to the degree that the planned venture fits their mission, aspirations, and tolerance for risk. So leadership is really important, right? Successful entrepreneurs understand and are able to manage factors that are critical to the operation of the company, right? And they are also able to connect with suppliers, customers, investors. Networking is really important. 360-degree networking, not only with your customers, but your suppliers, your employees, your competition too. You should be in touch with your competition as well, right? Oh, that was the last slide, actually. Okay, let me go ahead and stop the recording. Stop.